Attila, 406 to 453. Violence is justified in the service of mankind. I was born a Mongolian boy in a family of rulers and kings of the Huns. We were a union of nomadic tribes stretching from Mongolia to Turkey along the Siberian plains. We hunted with bows and arrows on horseback. I inherited the throne when my uncle died and shared it with two other cousins. We got very powerful and were greatly feared. As we went into new territories, we gained a reputation for plundering and pillaging. We achieved military dominance due to our superior horses and our better riding skills. We had special bows that we were able to use while we were riding. To overcome high walls, we built battering rams and rolling towers. This way, we captured many churches and monasteries. We demanded ransom for lives, and later we extorted tributes for insurance against further attacks. We expanded to the outskirts of the Roman Empire, where we were considered barbarians, but hired as mercenaries whenever they needed fearless soldiers to police their outposts. Honoria, the sister of the king Valentinian of this powerful empire, was sent to a convent for plotting to kill her king brother. She offered me half her kingdom for her rescue. I liberated her from her abductors by kidnapping her. I kept her as a hostage and forced her to marry me. Valentinian was furious when he found out. I had to use 500,000 soldiers and took 3 years to take my claim of half his kingdom, which reached all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Honoria seduced me on my victory night celebrations. I was drunk, and she was able to easily stab me. It was only later, when I died, that I realized what a deceiving person Honoria was. She had also seduced one of my more ambitious commanders into a conspiracy to kill me. They planned to marry and to claim title to my newly conquered empire. She killed me, and he buried me. Then she killed him. She was caught, arrested, and sent back to her brother Valentinian. People have never been able to find my grave. My relatives, over many generations, grew to be rulers of Europe. Charlemagne was the greatest of them. Charlemagne, who lived 300 years later, had 20 children with 8 of his 10 known wives or concubines. He became the founding father of all European monarchies. The monarchies would over centuries struggle for power, sometimes conquering with marriage, other times with war. But families grew and their language slowly changed, first by accent, then by dialect, until they could not understand each other anymore. They kept different rituals and customs and evolved different cultures. The church, also competing for power, was a unifying and mediating force for these monarchies. Genghis Khan, 1160 to 1227. 700 years later, I reincarnated into a Mongolian boy again. I learned how to ride horses when I was 3. I could hunt and fish before I turned 6. When I was 9, my father made arrangements to have me wed a girl from a neighboring tribe. My father took me to our family and left me there to be raised up by them until I was old enough to marry her. They killed him and treated me very harshly, like a slave. They tied me up at night like a dog so I would not escape. But at 18, I managed to break away. I killed my guards before I burst out. I kidnapped the wife promised to me, who I had never seen before. We managed to get away, and I forced her to marry me. With time, I acquired respect from her family and was eventually accepted by her tribe. The leaders of her tribe were afraid that I was getting too powerful, and they threatened to kill our family. We were too weak and too few to protect ourselves, so we fled and moved far away. As we were moving, we were able to unite and organize many nomadic tribes who started to regard me as their leader. I organized my troops into different groups, gangs of 10, bands of 100, and a battalion of 1,000 called Qurans. I commanded a league of 10 Qurans, considered the most powerful and feared warriors of the times. One of the Chinese emperors hired my army, and we grew and prospered and became famous for our fierce fighting power. We went back to our homeland, and after unifying the Mongols, I returned to China, breached their Great Wall, and conquered the entire country. I let the Chinese live as they had been living, imposing on them only a light tax. After conquering the Chinese, I turned my attention to trade. When the Sultan of Persia killed my ambassadors and refused to trade, I went to war yet again, conquering almost all of West Asia, so that my empire covered almost all of Asia. After restoring the trade route in the west, I returned to my home only to die of illness on the way. They found me dead, riding on my horse.